Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Where is the Line, where we explore the gray areas of life. My name is Sabrina Fruhoff, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Jane. Jane, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. This is so random. This is so off topic, but I have to update you. It's life changing. My eye shape is like not the Western eye shape, right? So a lot of the eyelash curlers don't work for me, but I just discovered this contraption.
Oh,
It heats up and it's in a completely different kind of shape and it's like perfect for my eyes. And because it heats up, it's not like burning, but it's kind of like a curling iron essentially. And it does that for your eyelashes. And it's been life-changing for me. So,
oh my gosh.
anyways,
Wait,
if
did you get
anybody
that
out
here
there,
or from Asia?
yeah, no,
Oh,
from Amazon. I've been
nice.
doing a lot of research. A lot of the like regular curlers, it works, but then it doesn't stay for forever. Like, a lot of people like their eyelashes are super curly all day, super beautiful. Mine doesn't stay. That's my one kryptonite. So
I was gonna say your eyes do look bigger now that you say that. I was like, they look
thank
a bit
you.
different today.
Thank you. How are you?
Oh, love, love. Good, thank you. I'm adjusting in San Francisco. I've been very blessed to go on like a sailboat with my friend Sam, friend of the show. Hi, Sam. And that was phenomenal. Just sailing underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. I really had to pinch myself, like, what's going on here? But yeah, work's been busy but good. So I'm slowly starting to settle. But I do miss Minnesota a little
hmm
bit, especially the people. And today we have the honor of having one of my best friends on here. She is living in Minnesota right now, Emily Becker. And I'm just so excited to talk to Emily. So, Emily has been a dear friend of mine since I moved to Minnesota, really. And we've been going through the ups and downs of a topic that we're going to talk about, right? Like dating. Her and I have gone through the trenches. We've done it all, seen it all, I feel like. And I think today Emily is I'm just super excited for her to join and talk more about where we are today in this dating culture, in this hookup culture, dating in 2024, how to navigate the balance between, yes, we all want to find a partner, right? But also we want to detach ourselves a little bit more from this like outcome and try to enjoy the process, even though the process can be so draining sometimes, and living the single life, embracing the dating piece. And so we'll cover a lot of the challenges today, and how to really find meaningful connections in this non-committal, what seems to be era. So yeah, Emily, so excited you're here. Give us a little bit more background about yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Emily, and we definitely all miss you, Sabrina. Yeah, I live in Crystal, Minnesota, or Crystal, as I like to say. For work, I'm a land development and entitlements manager. So I work with cities to get our developments up and off the ground, work through red tape, things of that sort. Own a house, so I've done a lot of work on that. And then, yeah, just like Sabrina said, I mean, I feel like dating is almost like a part-time job in between swiping on the apps, trying to get yourself out there, going on dates, following up. So that's a lot of what I do.
Before we dive into some of the actual meat here, give us a rundown maybe of your just dating history.
Yeah, so from 18 to probably 32, I feel like I was just a serial, very in-depth relationship, long-term relationships. I think in between that time period, I was single for maybe like 3 months. And then I would have 1 2 year relationships, one right after another. There was one that he lived in my house and we dated for like 4.5 years. We had a joint bank account. So I would say that that is probably the one that was like closest to a marriage type relationship. In my last most recent long-term serious relationship, that's where I kind of feel like I kind of knew that I needed to like take a step back, reevaluate, learn to be alone, and really learn, what I value in a relationship, who I want to be as a partner and who I want as a partner. And because of that, I really haven't had, I've had, like 3-month relationships since that time, but I think I'm learning a little bit quicker to just end those as soon as I can. And as soon as I see those red flags, like this is not something that I want to live with in the long term. So yeah, just like I said, been on a lot of dates since then. I hate to say this, but like sometimes when I am dating, like I'll go on like 5 dates a week. There's been times a couple years ago that I would go on 3 dates a day, a little aggressive, just because I really am. I'm looking for, again, that serious long-term relationship, and there really is not a lot out there. So with the apps, I feel, we're kind of just discussing this a little bit earlier, there's just a lot of guys that lie. Most recently, my most recent funny story is a guy that he said his name was Nicholas and that he was in sales and that he had 3 kids. Later went on the date, sat me down, we talked a little bit. He was like, yes, he asked about kids. Well, I didn't really want to type this. I wanted to say this in person, but I actually have 5 children. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, well, I mean, so one was from a one night stand back in my early 20s. And then the second one was a similar situation. Both of the baby mamas decided to not stay with him, decided to take their kids. And I was like, okay, so you just don't count them? Then he later went on to the date to say, like, okay, so one more thing. My name's not Nicholas, it's John. And I, huh? And then he's like, oh, yeah, so that ties to another thing. I'm not in sales. I'm a blackjack dealer, which is fine. But why weren't you honest about that? And he said it was because a woman found out that his name was John and he was a blackjack dealer, went and stalked him. And I was like, okay, I kind of get that. But at the same time, that's, you need to be honest. And I don't appreciate that. I wasted my night, I wasted my time, my energy to be on a date with someone who lied. The funny thing is that's not the first time that's happened. I mean, this is legitimately the second time that I've been on a date. This other guy previously, he said his name was Douglas, it's Dean. He said he had 3 kids. During our conversations, he has 4. So it just really seems to be a pattern with these guys. And even a lot of it too with lying is, on Hinge and Bumble, they say what they're looking for, and they say they're looking for a long-term relationship when in fact they're not, through their actions and what they say and such. So it really has been a struggle, but I keep putting myself out there and keep on going on dates and keep hopeful.
Oh my gosh. What an opener, because I'm left speechless. Here's the thing. I have been out of the dating world for a while now. So I can imagine things have changed probably since like years ago when I was dating. So I'm curious. Okay, so Emily, maybe before we even get into some of these situations, like just help us understand, like, how do you define this hookup culture? Do we feel that that is the environment right now? Like, there's all these different terms. There's like relationship, situationship. There's, are we exclusive or not? There's like just all these different scenarios. Like, what's your perspective on where we are today as a society, and like whether or not people are willing to commit?
Yeah, I mean, definitely I would define, a situationship as minimal effort. You're there when the situation is right for you, that's when we're going to talk. You don't make special rearrangements to your plans. You don't put forth a lot of effort in that quote unquote relationship. And then, I mean, when you're in a relationship, I feel like that's like you're making effort, you're rearranging your life at least a little bit, give and take a little bit. And you are committed, you say, I'm with you, I'm not with anybody else. I really think that those are the two different sides.
Hmm.
I do think that our culture is definitely people, they want to be open, they want to keep their options open.
Hmm.
They don't want to just settle. And that can be for a number of reasons, of course. But I do find that it's most guys nowadays want a situationship versus a relationship.
Do you feel like, is that like generally more men, or do you feel like women as well? Like, do you feel like your girlfriends are also in that situation?
I do have a lot of girlfriends who do like they would prefer the situationship, and again, that is for a number of reasons as well. I think, and this might not even be the quote unquote era. This could also come from age and just becoming frustrated with putting yourself out there, putting your heart and soul into a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and you get crushed, and so that's all I've got. Like, I can give you like my bare minimum. I love spending time with you, but I can't keep making these sacrifices in my life to, to make this work when I'm afraid you're going to hurt me.
Mm-hmm. Talk to us a little bit more about like the reasons behind the lack of commitment that you're observing right now. Like, why do you feel that so many people are struggling to find these meaningful relationship or connection with people, and why does it seem to lean more casual? It's just that it's easier, or people, you mentioned like people want to keep their options open. What are some of the like reasons that you've observed?
Yeah, I think number one is because of the apps and it being so easily attainable to find someone new super
Hmm.
quickly. And a lot of these meetups, they happen so quickly after a quick conversation on the app. So just the ease of that. And then I just think so many other priorities that people have. I know, like, for instance, I shouldn't say I haven't put my relationships ahead of work and my career goals and other goals in life. But I would say that finding a partner has definitely taken a back burner. And then also, I mean, I think that we as women, we have become more independent. We
Hmm.
realize that we have options. We've learned and been encouraged to, have value in other people valuing us, and not essentially just not taking crap, not as much crap as we did.
Yeah. I
Um,
actually think when we were preparing for this particular topic, we were thinking through just like what the current world looks like compared to, even like 10, 15 years ago, or even way more than that. Like, to your point, I think women are certainly a lot more financially independent, especially like many of us are lucky enough to be able to work, to be able to support ourselves, and like you own your home, like to be able to own homes and take care of ourselves. I think that certainly like increases our standard, right? We're expecting more from people and our partners. And um I think you're also right, like technology also make things more accessible. And that
mhm.
is one thing I do, like I did resonate with like previously, even if I am now married, like when I was dating, I remember, before the apps, you met people in your circle, right? You met people through friends or who you knew, or your family recommended people, but like that's kind of it. Whereas once you have the apps, like you start meeting people that you would have never even gotten the chance to meet
Right.
with. And it's
Um,
great, right? Because you get to meet a lot of people that you wouldn't get the chance to meet with. But at the same time, you're now like, it's all at your fingertips. And, like to your point, like people want to keep their options open. They feel like they can get different people, they can get somebody better. And yeah, it almost like backfires in a way as well. But Sabrina, what's your perspective? Like I know you also recently moved. Sometimes I feel like, and especially because you come from a European background, like part of me also thinks like globalization allows people to travel more, and people are less committed to one location, and maybe in a way that limits people's willingness to commit to.
Yeah, I think it's all the things that you guys mentioned. And I think also a big point to piggyback off what Emily was saying, women just are less sort of now forced to stay in something that doesn't serve them, right? And we
Hmm.
used to maybe be more trying to just find the man as the provider, and they could treat us no matter how they wanted to treat us, and we would just suck it up. But I think now that we are more independent on our own, we can be more picky, right? And we can say, well, we don't need someone to compliment us anymore. Like we need someone to like add to our lives. And I think the more over time, right, with age, with maturity, you really like sort of build your own like life and brand, and it becomes less about, oh, I need someone, like I want
Hmm.
someone, at least for me, but I can also be picky, and I'm not just like choosing anyone that's coming along. So I think it's all of those things. But also with the apps, I feel like sometimes, I don't know if you find this too, Emily, like I know what I want, but sometimes I'm like questioning myself, like is
Yeah,
this like too like niche, or like I just want, like, sure, I just want a guy that treats me well, but if I'm being honest, that's not just what I want. Like, yes,
right.
I do want to be attracted to them, and I do want them to maybe make like somewhat of a living on their own, right? Like someone with a good, decent job. So I don't know. It's like the apps are definitely, yes, it opens up your world to more people. It's a double-edged sword, right? It goes
Hmm.
both ways.
Well, Emily, I know you've gone through quite the hardship with all these different men. I'm like exhausted hearing some of your stories, but I can't imagine. Honestly, I'd be so furious if somebody just like showed up and had 5 kids instead of 3. Okay, anywho, not to dwell on that, but I mean, I can tell it can be very difficult sometimes, and it's exhausting, and to go on all these dates, and it's so much commitment from the women, right? To prepare yourself for these dates and to get ready and all that. So like it's hard not to feel jaded in this situation and frustrated. Um, Ultimately, like we still hope that everybody stays hopeful and enjoy the journey as much as possible, but how do you stay hopeful and to like, still go on these dates and to put yourself out there even though it's a lot of work, and sometimes it can be very emotionally and physically taxing to be doing that, how do you do that?
Yeah, it certainly is. I think the thing that's helped me the most is to always look back and be like, how was this a learning experience? How can I learn from this? Maybe what could I do differently next time? What did I learn I don't want? What did I learn I did want that that person did provide, but maybe that they just weren't right in a different aspect. So I think just taking that learning experience and be like, okay, well, I can just use this in the future, is super, super helpful. Another thing that's been tremendously helpful is having a community of other women who are sharing similar experiences, such as Sabrina. I know I go to Sabrina with a lot of advice, a lot of just venting and just
Yeah.
being like,
Yeah.
this really sucked today. And just being able to kind of have that support system has been tremendously helpful. Um, and just being able to, pick your chin up and keep on going.
If
I love
anything, it's like a silly little story for the
Yeah,
girls to laugh
it is.
about, but
That is true. I mean, yeah, I have a lot of stories that, like I like, dang, like I could write a book.
We were joking about that, weren't we, Emily? Like we should
Yeah,
just write, and it would be a bestseller, or like a blog or something.
yeah,
All these
like,
stories. Yeah. No, but plus one, I really love what you said about taking inventory of your previous situationships, whatever this dating experience was, right? And like taking notes of what you learned. I try to do that too. Sometimes easier said than done, but I think that's so, so crucial. So I love that you do that. And yeah, likewise, like I'm just so grateful for you as a friend, and just having us women like support each other through this. I know it sounds so like sad, look, but I'm trying to we're good, guys. We're good.
support group.
Support through this difficult time. No, but I want to share this because I was the person of being just very down, and now through a lot of therapy and through like friendships and just lifting each other up, like I'm honestly just so much happier, like enjoying this process. Like, yes, dating sucks sometimes, but let's just make it more fun again, right? Like, yes, no one likes dating, but I see it more so now as meeting new people. And every person that I go on a date with is just someone that I met. And if I'm excited about that person, like, do I want to see them again? I ask myself that question after every date instead of like jumping ahead. Can I marry that person? Like I used to do that always. Now it's more like, would I be excited to go on another date with him? Or
Hmm.
would I excited to be getting to know him more? And if the answer is yes, then yes. But sort of taking the pressure off a little bit really helped me, just to be more sort of okay with the process and enjoy my life while at it. Um, so with that though, obviously we talked a lot about the apps. Emily, you mentioned Hinge and Bumble. Um, can you shed a little bit more light on what apps are you on currently, or which ones do you recommend? Which ones do you not like and why? Help us understand that a little bit more.
Yeah, so right now I'm on Hinge and Bumble. I do like Hinge better just because I like being able to like view who liked you as opposed to just like swiping right and then hoping that there is going to be a match or it'll be a match in the future.
Mhm.
I just prefer that. And
Yeah.
then I don't love that like I have to initiate the conversation on Bumble. And then you only have, what did they have, like 24 hours to respond? You only have 24 hours to put out that initial greeting, and especially like when it match or they match with you after you, like, I'm like, I can't keep track of that, that's just too much.
Yeah.
I have also tried meeting people through friends or meeting people out. That hasn't even panned out. I always thought that it'd be great to have a friend recommend, and unfortunately I just had a very recent experience with a friend that recommended somebody. I ended up, he was great. He seemed like showed me in so many ways that, he wanted commitment and to spend a lot of time. He rearranged a lot of plans, like I talked about before, that it's just not, I'm going to be with you in this situation. And then he was all of a sudden like, oh wait, like when I actually asked him, like, where's this going? He's like, oh wait, no, I don't want a relationship. And I'm like, what? Like every action you've taken and every word you've said and how you treat me definitely negates that. But okay. And my friend recommended this person. So that doesn't always pan out either. So
Yeah.
it's tough. I mean, obviously Tinder I try to avoid unless, I just want some entertainment. But yeah,
Oh, didn't you? Wait, what about the farmers one?
oh yeah, Farmer's D. Shout out to Anna. She put me on Farmer's D, and somebody offered to drive 7 hours just to me.
That
Like,
That's
app is
love. That's
something.
love.
That is, yeah.
That's
Yeah, that is a
commitment.
crazy, that is a crazy app. We messed with it a little bit, so that was interesting.
I thought you
Oh,
guys were gonna say she's on farmersonly.com. Remember that?
well, Farmer's
yeah.
D is like that, but it's
Is
like
it
a
the same?
Tinder. It's a Tinder version of Farmer's Only.
Oh, okay, okay. That's so
God,
funny.
I can't keep track. There's so many apps. Even have you heard of Field?
No, what is that?
People in San Francisco like Field. It's for sexually exploratory,
Oh,
open-minded kinks,
Okay.
including
What's
other stuff also, but you can be more open about what you like or like to explore. So
okay?
yeah, I met a couple
wait,
recently that they met on Field. So interesting. I haven't tried it, but
I love.
wait. What's that one where all the celebrities are on?
oh, Raya.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I'm
D
not cool enough to go on
I'm
Raya.
not cool and I'm not even
Got it. You have
for
to be
that.
referred.
Referred and like a certain amount of followers. I don't even know.
Ah.
Oh
But
yeah, I
yeah,
tried the league too, but that was so frustrating. I didn't understand it. Like I was like, you get like two an hour, whatever to do. I'm like, no, no, it's
yeah,
really
You know what's
frustrating.
funny? The
yeah.
league was started by somebody from my university.
Oh,
Oh no
really?
Yeah, like at the I think like right around the time that I was in college, this person must have like recently graduated or something, and they were like, "Oh, I'm just having trouble finding really qualified people who like have similar education level and pay."
Mhm.
Because like Sabrina, I think you mentioned earlier, like we want not just somebody who's nice to us, right? But like also we want somebody who can like have a good job and be reliable in that sense. And this person was like, "Oh, I'm having trouble finding that." So they created the league as like I think you have to fill out your education, your job, and it's
Yep.
like a whole thing.
Yeah. I like the league actually. In San Francisco, I mean, I've only been for a month, but I have been talking to a few people on the league. Actually Europeans mostly. So we'll see.
Oh.
But with all of this, I think Emily, you made a good point. Like it's just generally, it's not just apps. I think it's just this general level of non wanting to commit, right? Whether they've had trauma, whether this and that. But I think maybe the apps just exacerbate the issue because they just the options, right? I
Right.
heard this analogy recently, which really resonated. Dating nowadays is almost like going on Netflix, but not actually watching a movie, just like clicking through
Mm-hmm.
and like watching the
Mm-hmm.
trailers for each, but
Yeah.
not actually committing to watching. And I was like, oh my God, this is such a good summary.
Yes.
No one wants to really start watching the movie.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
um, but that said, I mean, we have heard, I mean, I think we all have these success stories, right, in our friend group of people meeting on apps. And this was something like years ago when I was living in Chicago. It was like 8 years ago. I've had so many people that met on the apps and then got married like a few days after, a few years
A few
after.
days.
A few days. Whoa. Well, and I mean, let's hear it from one of these success stories herself. Jane, it sounds like you met your significant other.
Yeah, and I think you guys are right. Like I think a couple years ago things were very different. Well, here's the thing. When I met my now husband, I was not really in a place to date seriously. So maybe I am the problem of that situation at the time. Because at that time I was like traveling a lot for work and like it is the situation where I couldn't like fully commit to something in person here in Chicago, even though I technically lived here. I was traveling for work every single week. Like, how do you build a strong relationship when you're barely in that city? And like at the time, I didn't really want to do long distance or anything like that. It was just so much work. And so it, yeah, maybe it is actually like the flipped situation for me when I met my now husband. But he was very clear, like up front, that he was looking for something more serious. And I think I got lucky in that sense. Like I've dated plenty of people who were not at all interested in that. Granted, this was also a couple of years ago when I was younger, the people that I was dating was younger. So like maybe when you're like in your 20s, people in major cities like Chicago, maybe people just weren't looking for anything serious. But I do think, I mean, there are success stories. We're literally this weekend, we're going to a friend's wedding and they met on an app right around the same time as when me and Kyle met. So I know it works. I just I just think at that time it was one newer, like apps were just in general, like they're not necessarily new anymore, but they're still kind of a new concept. Not everybody met their partner through an app, so it is still kind of a new concept. And then two, I think Sabrina, you and I talked about this when we were preparing for this, is like a lot of these apps have become more commercialized, right? Like they're having you pay and do all these things just to be able to get a match. And it's like, do they still have your best interest in mind? I don't know. Um, and I think maybe it's city to city dependent. Like when I was living in New York City, it was like nobody was looking for anything serious, but that could be the nature of that city, right? People, not that many people were from New York City. Everybody moved there. People were there to hustle for their jobs. And maybe in Chicago, there's more people interested in something serious. I don't know. It could be like the perfect storm. Um, but yeah, I got lucky, but I did meet my partner on an app, so it does work.
There is hope.
Trust
There
me,
is hope.
it can work out.
Yeah, we need success stories. But I think there's something to be said about you not really being that interested. Like, I think that's kind of attractive to a guy as well. And I mean, clearly Kyle was, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Um,
was very clear on like the first date that, he didn't want anything super casual. And I think that like helped set the tone.
mhm.
I do think like Emily, you mentioned earlier, you got into relationships for a year and then realizing it's not working out. Whereas now you're like getting out of relationships that are not working out for you much faster. I think like setting those expectations early on allows you to not waste any more time with the people
Right.
who are not ready. So I think, it kind of resonates too with my experience. Is my partner was like, no, I'm looking for something more serious. I'm not gonna, do all this drama. So I think
Mhm.
that helps a lot with clearly setting that expectation up front.
Yeah. I like that, but we've had examples, right, where even Emily was sharing how the guy was leading with, "Hey, yeah, I'm also looking for something serious."
Yeah.
And it turns out they weren't like a few days later. So it is this wishy-washy culture right now is really tough. But I think all we can take from that is continuing to just watch out, ask the right questions, ask follow-up questions. Like I used to never ask follow-up questions, but it just saved me so much like heartbreak down the line. If I'm just, whenever I'm noticing, are their words actually matching their actions, right? Like if they don't, then just be more deliberate and ask even more questions
Mm.
to like get to the root of like what they're actually looking for. But yeah, I think in all of this, the app fatigue is definitely real, and oftentimes also just like getting maybe a little bit fatigued from dating, right? So Emily, like for if you have any tips to share, how do you stay true to yourself while navigating the apps and while navigating dating? And it can be so exhausting, right? Like, and you sure, like we all maybe want that long-term relationship, but how do you balance like detaching yourself from that outcome and really, really wanting that, but going on a date, maybe not necessarily giving off that vibe? I think there's an art to it, right? To say, yes, this is what I want, but also maybe not just, oh my God, be my husband, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you navigate going on these dates? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, Sabrina, to your point, I do definitely go into a day and just say, like, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to assess, do I like this person? I don't care so much if they like me. So that's how I go into it. If I am interested in them, I'll just be like, hey, just so you know, like, I'm not looking for something casual, just, and I do make that clear.
Mhm.
And maybe on date 2 or 3, I do ask, what are you looking for? And I make it like clear that I'm not saying like, hey, I know you're not like, I'm not saying with me. I just mean, where are you at in your life? Are you, just kind of wanting to have fun at this point, or are you kind of looking for your, not your person, a long-term relationship?
Mhm.
Yeah, it is so hard, and I think you do have to kind of play it situation by situation, and when the right time is to bring it up, I think always varies.
I like how you said when you ask them where they're at in terms of in general, not just with you. I think that's a really great tip that listeners can maybe take away, or myself included. It's more so, right, like where are they at? What do they see for themselves and what's their goal? Look long term versus short term in general, right? Like making it less about with me. So I think that's a really practical tip. And then so this is all, of course, can take an emotional toll, right? Dating in general. How, in your case, has this hookup culture like affected your mental health, and what can we do to help like maybe individuals who's struggling with this?
Mhm.
Do you have any advice that it so that it doesn't like bring people down too much?
Yeah.
Um, like or things like getting ghosted even. Like what share some of the experience you've had.
Right. So yeah, first and foremost, it can be completely hopeless at times, and I'm not gonna lie that I haven't cried to you many times and to many other people. But I think at the end of the day, you can't take it personally, because then what I do is I look back and I'm like, hey, I probably wasn't that nice to that person. I probably let them down, but was it ever like always that person? Sometimes it was like if they were lying or, just a bad person at times, but you have to understand that this might have nothing to do with you. It might have, to do with what's going on in their life currently, their past relationships. I think again, at our age, we do have to kind of look at and understand that people are going to have, I hate to use this term, but I don't know what else to say it, but emotional baggage.
Mhm.
One
Yeah.
one guy, I was at a bar talking to him, and he told me, he's like, hey, you have to look at, most guys have given their hearts to a female in the past, and it was really hard for them to be vulnerable and to put themselves out there, and they got crushed. And
Mm,
now they've just learned, don't do that again, because I think we as women are a lot more resilient in terms of getting back up and putting ourselves out there, whereas I think men, it was hard for them in the first place. And with having somebody that broke their heart, or in a situation where their heart was broken, um it's tough. So I
mm,
think I always just try not to take it personally, I think, is the biggest thing.
You've
yeah.
told me that story of this guy telling you
Mhm.
that. I think that was so well articulated. I was like, oh my God, I had such an aha moment. Because we
Yeah,
always are so easy to victimize ourselves. Like, why are these guys such douchebags? But what happened to them oftentimes can, like you said, affect them for a really long time, and they may not get over it as fast as
yeah.
I
versus.
do think
That
like
guy did ghost me though. He did.
Oh,
We had a date planned, and then he
boo!
an hour before. So Kyle.
I mean,
Okay.
I do feel like though, like women, we're a lot more open to talking about it. Like the fact that the three of us are having this
Yeah.
conversation, like, right, I think women are a lot more open to like vent together and to share their like frustrations or disappointments with each other. I feel like men are not really doing that, you know? So like maybe it's easier, it's still difficult, but maybe it's easier for us to move on because we have the support system that we have, and like there are women and family members supporting us, and we're also a lot more comfortable speaking about it maybe. And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
maybe it's easier for us to move on. But I don't know. Yeah, that's actually such an interesting way to view it because I feel like it like humanizes their perspective a little bit, and it gives us some perspective into maybe why some people are not as open to commitment. But um Emily, I want to dig a little bit deeper on just like setting the intention up front clearly. Um, like obviously it was very helpful for me in my relationship early on, but I'm kind of curious, how do you feel like people should communicate that? And you mentioned like maybe you articulate that early on, but then over a couple dates, you then ask them about it. Um, what's like a good timing? Because my partner was very clear, like
Yeah.
literally on the first date, right? And that was so helpful for me. But I can imagine maybe if it was vice versa. Like I know a lot of times women know what they want very clearly, they articulate it, but then it scares people away. Like, do you feel like there's maybe a difference between men and women, vice versa? Maybe it doesn't work that way, or yeah, what's your perspective on that?
Well, yeah, I do really think it is situational, because I have been articulate about that even on the first date. And, that person was very receptive to it and would go on, and, he would show me that he also was, willing to be committed and put in the effort. But then there's been guys that I just scared off, and never
Yeah.
would talk to me again, and that would be on the second date. So I really do think it is just so situational. And I think, honestly, I do, you should just put yourself out there, because if they're going to be that scared, I feel like that just shows that they're not ready.
Hmm.
And you can't just say, like, on the first date, like, hi, I'm Emily, like, are you gonna marry me or what? Like, like, you can't, you have to, put it in terms that are gonna just look more general.
Sure.
Um, and but yeah, I think you do need to, first or second date for sure. And if it scares them off, it scares them off. Then they
At least it doesn't waste your time anymore, right?
exactly, exactly.
Totally. The
It's
right
so
guy you can't
tricky.
scare off.
Yeah, it's so tricky. I think you're right. I mean, it is situational, but it's so tricky because some people maybe they would be willing for something more serious if they had a little bit more time to like get to know you. But then if you set that up front, maybe and it's like you never know, right? And you don't know where that other person like what their situation is, whether or not they're ready or um
Yeah.
ugh, yeah.
I think I have a recent example of where I was really clear in what I wanted, but then I just let them show me if they're up for that. And even
Mm.
if they don't say exactly those same words, but you could just get a feeling of, do they call you? Do they text you? What is their
Mm-hmm.
sort of communication style, right? And if they continuing to want to also like see you, and like there's such something to be said about just consistency. That is something in my 20s, I did not care about that. I was like, oh God, he texted me once in a week. Oh my God, he must love me. And then I wouldn't hear from him. And I would be like, this like constant roller coaster of chasing back and forth. That goes to show like they're not interested in you, right? But if someone continues to show you through how they call you and how they want to make plans, I don't know. It's just something where, yes, we can say what we want, but then just like let them show you how
Mm-hmm.
they like
Yeah.
show up for you, basically. So
Yeah.
that's my new approach.
Yeah. I think that's fair because I think like one thing maybe I've shared this with you, Sabrina, before, but like I feel like with my partner, life feels very easy, right? And I think that's
Mhm.
how it's supposed to be. Like if you're always fighting for this thing and you feel like you're always chasing, like yes, you should always be chasing your partner, right? You should always show them affection and chase them. But at the same time, it's like it should feel easy. You
Easy.
should naturally want to be with, they should naturally want to be with you. They should want to make plans with you. They should want to text you. Like, oh my gosh, I remember back in the days, you remember the games of don't, you can't message them right after, you
Mhm.
gotta
Yes.
wait a day. Like, who even cares about, don't just, if you want to see this person again, you should tell them how, how much fun you had and how you want to see, like,
Yeah.
just, let's not play these games.
Right.
We're too old for these games.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love like just yeah, the comfortability and being able to like be like, oh my god, I don't know, should I text him? And like, did that sound too needy? Like, it shouldn't be like that. So I do feel like that's definitely a green flag when I can just be like, I'm gonna send them like 4 texts in a row, like, and then they'll respond
Right.
like I have a random thought in my mind, or like I have a story. Like, you should be able to,
Yeah, you should want to tell your
yeah,
partner or whoever.
Yeah.
yeah,
I feel you.
yeah.
Emily, we're starting to get to the end of our podcast here. As we think about like how this would look like in the future, and even as you think about like the future dates that you're gonna have, do you feel like this culture, like this more at the society level, do you feel like this is gonna change? Like, is this like a temporary thing, or do you also feel like people are starting to shift away from apps if they're not finding success there? Like, how are things changing for the future?
Yeah, I do. I've heard a lot of people that want to shift away from apps, personally, just because it is so exhausting. Yeah, I know a couple friends that, or yeah, at least just take breaks and
Mm-hmm.
try to do it. It is so hard with the apps because I feel like, when you first meet someone, you need to know their energy. I think with COVID, it just the apps amplified so much. Yeah, I do see a lot more people are just like, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. I don't necessarily know if, the hookup culture is going to get any better. That's super hard to say.
Yeah.
I, yeah.
Sabrina, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm really worried about our society.
Yeah.
Like, I'm worried to put even, yeah, just for the next generation. Um, it's just, I just hope that we can all get back to just simple, just manners, like the basics. Like, don't ghost, be a gentleman, or be a good person, right? And like state your needs. Don't lie, like be honest. I know it's hard, but this I'm really worried. And I'm worried about AI too. Like, what's AI gonna
Mm-hmm.
do? Like creating fake personas, or people getting so isolated and just being
Yeah.
on their screens all day that they're gonna shift to AI to like meet their emotional needs.
I'm I don't know. I feel so removed from it all. Like, to be honest, I was telling Kyle, I was like, if you ever leave me, I don't know how I'm gonna, because I hear these stories from like my girlfriends, and people are, like, it's not just you guys. I have some friends who have told me some crazy stories, and I'm just like, I don't have the patience to 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 have to do that over and over again. Like, I just don't think I would be able to get out there and meet people again. It just seems so exhausting. So I can't imagine. I do hope that it changes. I I have hope still for apps because I do think it hopefully creates more opportunity and choices for everyone. Like maybe, I don't know. I just want people to be more upfront and clear with their expectation. Like that's really the problem ultimately. It's not that there's more choices, it's just people are not upfront and honest about what they're actually looking for.
I agree. And I will say that maybe the one hope that we have as a society is I do feel like society is encouraging people like to talk about their feelings through therapy. It's
Hmm.
more acceptable for men to talk about their feelings, to cry, to get out their emotions. So I would, I would say that maybe slowly, but maybe surely, that would be the one thing that has switched a little bit on the uptick. So
Yeah, we needed to hear that. Actually, that's a
yeah.
great point. Yeah, more men, we need to normalize therapy, talking about your feelings, not letting the trauma just build up inside.
Hmm.
So that's actually really, that's great. All right, well, with that, one last question for you, Emily. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you for being so vulnerable and opening up about your dating life. What is something that you'd like to tell like young Emily, that all this knowledge and experience that you have now, put yourself back into the young Emily that started dating? What would you like to tell her?
Yeah, please don't take so much crap. And it's not so bad being single. Don't be afraid to break up with that loser.
Oh, yeah.
Preach.
Preach. Amazing.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And thank you again for just being so open and vulnerable with your experiences. I'm still shook from some of the stories that you told us, but thank you again for sharing all your stories.
Thank you
And
for having me.
as we're closing, where can people find you? Do you have any exciting projects or plans on the horizon? Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Emily, so EMMALEE 15826. Don't have a lot of projects currently, unfortunately, just maybe soon. But it was a pleasure to meet you, Jane, and of course to see you again, Sabrina. Miss
Yes.
you.
Emily's
Amazing.
DMs are open, everyone.
Only serious inquiries only,
Yes,
okay?
only
Don't
serious.
be messing with her.
Thank you. That was a really important disclaimer. Yeah.
Amazing. All right.
Thank
Well, thank you
you.
all so much. We also want to hear from our listeners. We would love to hear some of your horror stories, horror dating stories. So email that to us at whereisthelinepod@gmail.com. And as always, you can listen and subscribe wherever you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.
Bye.